Hi guys, Lewis here at Precision Golf. Today I'm going to talk you through one of my most typical lessons, and that is how to sort reverse pivot. Reverse pivot can be the cause of a lot of problems, whether you're steep in your strike, both angle of attack and plane, whether you're struggling with driver or wedges. It can really hinder a lot of aspects of the game. So if you enjoy the video, if you feel like it's helped you, feel free to click the subscribe button if you would like to see more, and do me a big favor and click the like button. You could even click the little bell and it will give you a notification every time I'm going to bring out a new video. So I hope you enjoy, hope to see you soon, and let me know what you think. Okay, so reverse pivot is deceptively simple. If you think about it in this way, you are trying to balance your pelvis and your chest. If I bump my hips to the left, my upper body will stay to the right to keep myself in equilibrium. Equally, if I bump my pelvis to the right, now my chest will stay left because I'm trying to balance the two masses, the mass of my chest, torso and head, and the mass of my pelvis. I would check, first things first, the basics. Setup is probably the #1 cause that I see of reverse pivot. What I see a lot when people come for a lesson is that they set up to the ball like this. It looks as if there's a lot of weight on their back foot. The most important part, however, is that the pelvis is offset to the right of my rib cage, the right of my sternum. You can imagine now my spine angle is tilted towards target. Now what this does and why it causes so many other problems is that it's very, very difficult to turn into your backswing from here. So what you might see if you reverse pivot is an exaggerated lift of the arms, a lack of depth to the swing, and coincidentally, a steep downswing. So usually with reverse pivot, you're going to struggle most with drivers, okay? Because drivers, we want to try and have that spine angle away from target because it's really going to help us unload upwards on the ball. Even for an iron though, it's a struggle because what happens when the pelvis is sat to the right of the rib cage and then we have a limited amount of rotation, if you're new to the game, what you're likely to do is come over the top because you would try and turn from this position, in which case you are going to put the club more out over the top, okay? If you've played for a little bit longer, watched lots of stuff on YouTube and you realize I don't want to come over the top because we know that's a bad swing fault, what you might start doing is early extending. So now you're going to start to thrust the pelvis to the left because in this instance, when we get here and I move my pelvis to the left, it can get the club in a fairly good delivery position and doesn't get me coming over the top. The downside to that is it's very much a case of timing. So if you're doing this and you have a lot of pelvic sway, okay, so you move the pelvis from the right to the left, and you can see my upper body is reacting to that, you might be quite an inconsistent player. You might have days where you just rip everything, it feels great, you're more relaxed, you shoot a fantastic score, but you also might have the other side of the coin where actually, if you're under a bit of pressure or you're shooting really good and then suddenly you think, oh, I'm 3 under handicap with 4 holes to play, that's when it's going to start to go wrong because the timing is interrupted by the pressure, the anxiety, and the tenseness you feel in your body because of the desired outcome, okay? The dream is that we have a pattern in our swing, everyone's pattern is different, but we have a pattern in our swing which delivers a consistent outcome and a not very damaging miss. Stat I love, very, very quickly. The difference between a 90 shooter and a 70 shooter is 20 shots. Now, on average, a 70 shooter only makes 1.8 more birdies per round than a 90 shooter. So if I shoot 70, a friend of mine shoots 90, on average, I'm not even going to make 2 more birdies per round. But typically, what a scratch player is much better at doing is A, scrambling, short game's fairly good, but B is that their miss isn't a big miss. The issue when you have reverse pivot is that your strike could quite easily become heavy, okay? Imagine I've got a 150-yard shot and I hit one heavy. I catch the ground before I strike the ball. I'm only going to make up 20 yards, if I'm lucky, of that 150-yard shot. So I haven't gained much on that attempt at that 150-yard shot. Imagine if I called it a bit thin. Imagine if I had a better setup and I actually got a bit more ball first contact, regardless of whether sometimes it got a little bit skinny. If that shot now went 130, 140, I've actually gained a lot of shots in that shot. Okay, so I've gained a high percentage of the shot I had. Does that make sense? So we're after a better bad shot. Now, the fix, very, very simple, and it's a feel. All I want you to do is either get your camera on face-on mode or get in front of a mirror, and I want you to try and track where is your pelvis relative to your sternum. Does it look as if your spine angle is already tilting towards target? If it is, keeping your head centered, I want you to give your hips a little wiggle, and I want you to try and place your pelvis slightly more underneath your chest. To you, if you do have the pelvis set to the right, it's going to feel as if you're over this way, okay? It's really not. It's a feel-based thing rather than a real, okay? So we're going to go from here, and we're going to set the pelvis underneath the chest or even slightly to the left. What you'll start to see happen from there is that you will be able to turn into the right side of your body. Okay, so you'll get the right hip more around, you'll be able to pull the shoulder around and therefore get some depth to the handle. Okay, so from down the line, we're going to see better pelvis at setup, then we have space to turn into that backswing. Okay, so the left arm pitch sorts itself out, it gets shallower. The club has a chance to come down shallow itself because of the depth we've got. It's purely coincidental that it will shallow. You don't have to try and shallow it. And then suddenly, you'll go from making swings where you set the pelvis, lots of arm lift, and an out to in swing path, 10 degrees outside inside, to then you'll start moving and having the pelvis a bit more left, and you'll be able to turn into your backswing and make a much better face and path relationship. 2 swings, one has reverse pivot, one does not. You'll see the difference. I'll play them up on the screen for you now, and you will see that you are going from a 10-degree left path to a dead neutral swing, purely by setting my hips at a better position at setup. But it's the knock-on effect that has, which is the key part. If you set your pelvis to the right and there's already some spine tilt to the left, you'll struggle to turn into that backswing. You'll lift the right hip up, it's like someone pulling on your pocket, and you won't be able to get the depth. So just try setting up with the pelvis a bit more to the left and allow this body to start to rotate into the backswing. It'll feel as if this right pocket, right shoulder, and therefore handle can work around you much, much quicker, and you'll be able to pull that club down shallower within half an hour. It will not take long to achieve this. So I hope that helped. What I love about this is that you're actually getting used to the basics before you try and discover anything exotic, okay? A lot of the time, big swing faults come from something deceptively simple, and they're not always the hardest thing to fix. So pay attention to your setup and get the feel of where you can move from there. Get the body in a position at your setup that allows freedom of movement. If you're locked up, if the spine is in the wrong direction, you're going to compensate in other ways, and therefore the club is going to move where the body wants it to. But if it's set up in the wrong space, you're going to find it very difficult to get the club where you need it. So if you enjoyed that, hit the subscribe button. There's obviously going to be plenty more coming, and we are going to get your game in the best shape possible for the 2023 season. Take care, guys, and I'll see you all soon.